Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good night. Whenever you're watching this, folks, it's Mark de Bruin from Simplifying Life. As we come to the end of 2022, this is a day before New Year's Eve, 2022. So maybe you'll watch this video in a couple of years and it'll be an oldie but goodie. I just want to touch on a subject that comes up more times than I can count in counseling sessions with my clients, and that's the idea of good, bad, right, wrong. Many clients often state to me that they want to stop doing something because it's not right, or they want to do something else because it's better, or they have particular coping strategies that are not the right ones, and they want better ones because then their lives will work better, etc., etc. Generally, that's not the most helpful way of looking at stuff. And I know I'm summarizing a lot of stuff here without all the beautiful nuances in it. But what I really like to talk about with clients is a concept from acceptance and commitment therapy that's called functional contextualism. And I'm not going to make it too theoretical and complicated for you, but the simple summary of this, of that theory, is this. In a context of our lives, whatever the context is, work, relationships, kids, money, you mention it, is what we're doing working? Is it functional? So rather than asking ourselves if what we're doing is the best thing or a good thing or a bad thing, right or wrong thing, the better question you can ask yourself is it working? Is it doing what I want it to do? Now, you want to put that in a context of acceptance and commitment therapy as well, that says, ultimately, what is the most functional thing to do in your life, or what is the aim of our lives, is to long-term live a life that's fulfilling, that gives us meaning, that gives us joy, that gives us a higher value. We're doing it for the right reasons. So within that longer compass heading point of view, look at your current actions. So are your current actions working towards those longer term goals of happiness and fulfillment, and whatever you want to call it? So say, for instance, you've had a really bad day, you're stressed out of your brain, and in order to feel a little bit better, you drink a bottle of wine. Now, is that well, that's the question, because a lot of people come to me with those sort of examples and say, I want to stop doing this. And my question generally is, why? What's so bad about it? And then they do look at me, it's like, well, drinking wine is not good. And my question would then be, but does it work? Now, okay, don't get me wrong, I'm not promoting alcoholism in any way, shape, or form, but it points towards a critical question. Is it working? Because some behaviors in some contexts are actually working. They are functional within that particular context, and therefore they're working, as long as they still are conducive to contributing to that longer term well-being or a sense of meaning or a sense of fulfillment in life. So, the weird thing is, and I often say this to clients, I have nothing against you pigging out on food, drinking too much, going on a retail therapy bender, spending too much money on a holiday, or buying an absolutely useless toy that you totally don't need but absolutely want, as long as that behavior is functional within the context of your life at that point, and as long as it still contributes to defined by you, obviously, well-lived life, a life of meaning and a life of happiness. So to summarize that in a sense, because I'm not going to make this a very long video, is like, rather than constantly asking yourself the question, is what I'm doing right, or is it wrong, or should I do it better, or is this worse than what I should be doing? Ask yourself, whatever you're doing in that context, like, is it working? Is it workable? Does it get me the result that I want? Is the data telling me that what I'm doing is working? And if you are fully relaxed after a couple of glasses of wine, or if you go to a party where you get drunk, or whatever it is that you do, you suffer the consequences in the morning, obviously, but you remember that party as the best party ever, and it was such a good thing, and it makes you feel really good on the inside because it contributes to your longer term definition of well-being and joy, then who are we to judge that that's not the right thing to do? Now, obviously, take the nuances in there. If you make that a hobby, maybe ultimately that doesn't contribute to your long-term well-being, physically, mentally, emotionally. But generally, it's about the context that we find ourselves in. So you'll hardly ever see me or hear me say that something is bad and you shouldn't be doing that, or that's better and therefore you should be doing that. It also means that any type of behavior can be good in one context and bad in another context, or I should say, catching myself now, functional in one context and not functional in another context. So when people have a particular coping strategy, say meditation, that works well in one context, then the tendency is to keep applying that particular coping strategy in every other context possible. But it might not work in particular contexts, So if meditation is very good for you to maintain an overall sense of calm, and therefore is functional within that context of keeping calm overall in life, it might not work at all when you're completely stressed out of your skull and have to do something for work or within your professional setting. Now, doesn't mean that therefore the coping skill is not working. It's a bad coping skill or it doesn't work anymore. It's just not functional in that context. So maybe in that particular context, something else would be more functional and is therefore preferred, rather than being better or worse or whatever. I hope that makes sense. Because a lot of people stick to particular coping strategies and then complain to me that they're not working. Then my comment would be, well, it's not working in this context. It doesn't say anything about the coping strategy per se. It just says something about that coping strategy within this particular context of your life. It's not working to contribute, to your overall sense of well-being or meaning or fulfillment in life. That's the big litmus test in a way. Is it working? Is it doing what you are wanting it to do? So the best example that I've seen in a movie, I like movies, is the movie A Bridge of Spies. I don't know if you've ever seen that one, but it's about, Tom Hanks plays a role in there, and he's a lawyer of a Russian spy who gets caught in America. So therefore he's not liked by the Russians and not liked by the Americans. It all plays in the Cold War. And Tom Hanks constantly, or very often in this movie, asks this guy, aren't you nervous? Aren't you scared of what's going to happen to you? And this guy constantly tells Tom Hanks in the question way, would it help? Where he stays this stoic, stolid guy who shows very little emotion, is very aware of his fate most likely, down the track, but doesn't find it very functional to get worried about all sorts of stuff. So this question, would it help, is such a common sense question, even when you look at it from a functional contextualism point of view. In particular context of our life, when we're worried about stuff, or when we're anxious, or when we feel depressed, and thinking about something to do or to think, ask yourself the question, would it help? If it does, most likely in that context, it's functional, so do it. But if you don't think it contributes to the right there and then situation, or to your overall sense of well-being in life, potentially not the best thing to do. And potentially there's something else that would be more functional and can help you a little bit better to overcome that situation or to work with it. So I hope that makes sense. I'm going to write articles about that as well, because it's an interesting thing to talk about. Rather than talking about good, bad, right, wrong, talk about, is this working for me? Does this do what I want it to do? If so, keep doing it. If it doesn't, perhaps come up with something else. So if you got questions around about this, please let me know. You know where to find me. Find me on Facebook, Instagram, send me an email, whatever it is that you want to do. I'll keep producing those videos definitely in 2023. I'll make a commitment to make more for you. Hope you have a great new year, and look forward to speaking soon. Cheers.